Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out a 300 amp hour 12.8 volt lithium iron phosphate battery from LiThink. Now that's not a brand I've ever heard of before, so this might be an interesting find. So let's go ahead and open it up and see what we have inside. Okay, when you open up this battery, the first thing you'll see is this packet right here. We have the user's manual, it looks like some warranty information, and then some stickers also. We also have this big piece of styrofoam along with our pulse bolts and pulse bolt covers right here. And then we have the battery. And I noticed in their packaging, instead of a styrofoam, they use this thick cardboard, which I'm kind of happy about because it's a little bit more environmentally friendly. All right, looking at this battery, the first thing that I noticed is they packed in a lot of amp hours into this small case. This is considered a mini size. I'll go ahead and put the measurements of the case right up here. And I was wrong, it is not a 300 amp hour battery, it's a 334 amp hour battery. Now that is very specific, so I'll be interested to see what our test comes back when it comes to the capacity. If it comes back at exactly 334, that might mean that these are actually 320 amp hour cells. So again, it'll be interesting to see what the capacity shows us. When it comes to the BMS inside, it is a 300 amp BMS, and that is to be expected for this large of a capacity of battery. And also about this battery is that it is Bluetooth capable, so we will be downloading the app and we'll be looking at what that has to offer as well. Let's go ahead and get the weight of this battery. If my brain is correct, it should be right around 65 pounds. So let's check it out. And it looks to be, oh my gosh, it's 59.5 pounds. So that is actually lighter than I actually thought it would be by about 5 pounds. But for now, what we want to concern ourselves with is what the voltage is on the battery when we received it. And then we're going to go ahead and charge it all the way up to 100% and discharge it using a tester to see what the capacity is. So let's go ahead and get the voltage now. All right, and the voltage of this battery is 13.14 volts, and that is perfect right out of the box. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and charge this up to 100% and then do a discharge test to find out what the capacity is. So as soon as I get that done, I'll be right back with you. All right, the test results are in for the LiThink 334 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. This is a 12.8 volt battery. Let's look at the results. And I did say that if it's exactly 334 amp hours, then they're not doing their job right because those are probably 320 amp cells. But I am happy with these results. First of all, you can look at the voltage curve that's in blue, and it is actually pretty smooth. There are some quick dips, but then it levels off again, and then there's a quick dip at around the 75 percentile range. But still, at 95%, the voltage is still 12.1, and that is perfect. At 5%, we're looking at 12.84. So a very nice curve for such a big battery. And if you look down here, the average voltage for this battery is 12.59. That's a little bit lower than the 12.8 nominal that these batteries are labeled at, but 12.6 is no big deal. But look at the capacity. For this 334 amp hour battery, we actually got 345 amp hours. So they're doing their job right on this battery. They labeled it to what the cells are, and the capacity shows that little bit that it should be more than what they label. Don't depend on this thing being 345 amp hours for the duration. It will quickly average out to that 334. But that's a side note. This battery passed all of the tests just fine. So now we're going to check the high amperage testing on this battery by just pushing it to its limits. All right, before I get this high amperage test all set up, I do want to show you the app that came with this LiThink 12.8 volt, 334 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. First of all, I downloaded the app. You know, you have all the information right on top of the battery, which is nice. I downloaded the app and it did make me register. So I know a lot of you don't really like that, and there's no like skipping that part. So that's something to consider if you want to use the Bluetooth capabilities of this battery. But let me show you what it can do and what a really nice feature is, especially for when I'm setting up something like this, which is a couple of inverters and stuff like that. And so let's look at the app. First of all, on the app, it does show that the capacity is 100%, and we have 322 out of 334 amp hours available. It does show that the voltage on the right is 13.6 volts, and the current is 0 because we have nothing turned on. Underneath, it does show the exact same items. If you scroll down a little bit, it does show the name of the battery, along with the voltage and all that stuff again, along with 3 temperature sensors, which is a very nice thing as well, to be able to see the temperatures. Right below that, you do have your charging and your discharging switches. So that is a very nice feature for when you're connecting up inverters, because I always worry about getting the spark from the battery when plugging in the inverter or hooking it up. But you can always just click on the discharge switch, and then now your battery doesn't have any discharge abilities. So you can just hook up all the stuff and then click on discharge switch again to activate the battery after it's all hooked up, which is a very nice feature. We can also click on cells, and that shows each individual voltage of cells: 3.388, 3.391, 3.393, and 3.391. So relatively close, not bad at all. And it says normal underneath that. I do like it when they display the high and low voltages of the cells, but this is only 4 cells, so really no big deal. And then you can hit about, and that just gives you your language, your MAC address, your Fahrenheit. You can either have Fahrenheit or Celsius, and then a bunch of manuals, updates, all that kind of stuff underneath. If we look at the dashboard again, there at the very top it says dashboard. You can click on status on the right, and it will bring up what kind of configuration we have. Right now we're just working with a single battery right here, so I'll have it on single. But if you have multiple batteries, you can either connect parallel connection, series connection, or series parallel. So we'll just hit cancel on that. And then over here on the left side, it says heating question mark. And it says below 0 degrees Celsius, charging will start heating first. During heating, the app may show 0 amps, heating only, not charging, but about 8 amps less than the input current. Some power is used for the heating. Once heating is finished, all input currents go to charging, and the app shows the full. So what that's telling you is that this battery, I didn't even tell you this, but it has built-in heating, which is a plus. So that way you can run this thing at negative temperatures, because if you try to charge it during negative temperatures, it will use about 8 amps of your solar or your input voltage or your input amperage to charge or to light up the heating pads underneath. So once the cells get above freezing, then the heating pads will shut off and the battery will actually start charging those cells. So that is a very nice feature. All right, well, I got this monstrosity of a battery and an inverters wired up, and for some reason, I went to switch on the charging mode on the battery, and it clicked, but it never turned on. So I click on cells, and it shows short circuit, which is a bummer, because this battery might have just popped somehow. Even though the inverters were not on, and the wiring is all correct, all positives to positives, negatives to negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect all this and see if I can get the battery to start back up. Okay, I don't know if anybody caught that, but it said short circuit on the app because I was short circuiting it. Let me show you. I had all of the negatives on the positive terminal of the battery and all the positives on the negative. So when I clicked it on for the discharge switch on the app right there, it automatically caught it, and in the cells it said short circuit. I can't believe I did that. And the battery caught it without my knowledge, and it said short circuit, and I was like, why does it say short circuit? It's because it was a short circuit. I feel so stupid, but I'm so glad that this battery is smarter than I am. So I rewired everything. It's still a disaster, and I don't recommend anyone doing this ever, but this is just for a test. So let's begin. What we have is our LiThink 12.8 volt 334 amp hour battery wired in this nest of wires to a 5,000 watt inverter and a 3,000 watt inverter. And we're going to be powering a whole bunch of stuff. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run 300 amps for 5 minutes. I'll put a little timer right here just to make sure that this battery can do it. And then we're going to try to push the amperage even higher to see what happens if we push, maybe 350 or 400, 500 amps through this. I don't know how much I'll be able to get, but we're just going to work at it. So let's begin. Like I showed you before, there's the battery inverter. There's my timer now. I have a 1500 watt heater. I have a 1000 watt heat plate, 1200 watt heat gun, a 200 watt heater, a 500 watt heater, and once the 300 amp test is done, I think I'm going to go ahead and click on this 1100 watt grid layer at the top to really push it to see if it shuts off. I'm not going to go any further than that because this is already ridiculous. So let's go ahead and start the timer. And we're going to do 300 amps for 5 minutes. So let's start turning stuff on. That's on high. That's on high. Turn these two heaters on. Man, it's going to get hot in this room. All right, with those things on right now, let's see what we are powering. And actually, I'll show you a screenshot of this, but let me just show you the screen real quick. It looks like we're doing 284 amps right now. Okay, I've got the app on the screen. So now it shows 285 amps. So let's kind of try to fine tune this a little bit. Let's turn off this heater and put the heat gun on low. There we go. Now we're looking at 200, right at 300 amps. So let's go ahead and let this run for about 4 or 5 more minutes. Okay, well, you can see that we've been running it for about 5 minutes and 50 seconds almost, and it's been running 300 amps for about 4 minutes now. And what we're going to do is we're going to start pushing it up and up and up a little bit at a time. So first of all, let's go ahead and turn off this Elite Gourmet so it doesn't turn off by itself for maxing out. And let's turn on this Gridler. You can see now the current is 320 amps. And I feel like it could do that all day as well. So, oh my God, and it can't. Look at that. Let's see, the cells over current discharge at 320 amps. You know what? I love that because on a single battery like this, that is just a lot of amperage going through these little tiny bolts, these M8 bolts. So that configuration where it shuts off pretty much right after 300 amps, in my mind, is perfect because 300 amps, you're looking at almost 4,000 watts. So I believe this configuration is perfect. All right, well, I think that does it for this video. That test turned out to be perfect, but man, when you're pushing 300 amps through one battery, it just gets my nerves up a little bit. I don't like doing it. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this video. If you have any questions about the LiThink 12.8 volt 334 amp hour battery that has a 300 amp BMS. It also has heating functions is also included. Please go ahead and leave them in the comments. I will be doing a second video where I'm going to take this apart. We're going to test the cold temperature charging protection and also see if the heaters do what they say they'll do. And we'll also be able to look at the internals. So make sure and stay tuned for that one as well. Thank you so much for watching this video and have a great day. Bye-bye.